to you and Nancy and to the Poulsbo. They've been doing this 26 years, I gathered. 26 years. Amazing.
You want me to do it?
And
Oh, you can raise the mic.
It was perfect.
It
I don't know what
may
went
be all
wrong.
right with just pointing it up like this, yeah.
Don't hit your
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Then, can you hear me okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
If you
thanks.
stay close,
I'll stay close. Okay. Well, okay. Well, thank you. For my next poem, I'd like to. I'd like to start with a poem that I wrote quite some time ago, and it contains something of I guess I'd call it a mantra, and maybe many of you here have a poem that you've read years ago or that you wrote, and there are lines that come to you when you need it. A mantra to me, what is a mantra? To me, it's a little hymn. It's a little kind of sacred piece that comes at the right time when you need to hear it. And that's why I call it a hymn. And especially the last line in this poem is something of a mantra to me, and that's why I wanted to read this. It's also this poem, I wrote it with some commentary at the end. So there's a poem to start with and then some commentary, and I actually wrote this to be presented together. That's not done that often. I read one book of poetry once where it was actually written that way. It's called Poems with Commentary. I haven't seen that many of them done that way. But this one I did, and this poem is called Feel It. Choose the color of your dinner plate. Cube steak frying, beans simmered, potted orange flowers blown to the floor by afternoon gusts. If this day gives you any choice, seize it. Take the blue one. There is that one right slope, the one time of day. The breeze dances the simple gauze curtain or blows harder and shoves. It is the motion of life, whatever does not apply. I don't know about you, but cooking brings out something jazzy in me. On this day, the elements joined in sort of a raucous lunch. Don't you love it? So I'll many times say to myself, take the blue one. And I know what that means. The next poem is also something of a decision poem, and I wanted to read this because this comes up for all of us. The time when, and I wrote this actually when I decided to retire from working for many years at the Veterans Hospital. But we all come upon the time of the decision, and the decision wasn't made for me or forced upon me. It was one I had to explore and make, and it's like getting married or many other crucial decisions we make. And so this poem's called The Decision, a Cutting Away. Step aside with me into a special place, the birthplace of doors, not physical ones, but where they are conceived, door womb. At first the noise is like city traffic or a gusting storm wind, but as you let this swallow you, there arises quiet apprehension. No one is here to narrate. Exquisitely place your foot onto new soil. Walk in this new light. Turning, you see your door, newborn, and you go on. Thank you. I write different poems about joy in its many forms and how we find pleasure. This one kind of is tied to things going on today. As you probably saw, there's a lot going on in town, a lot of celebration and fun, and it's going on still. So Why not? And I wrote this several months back. There's something called Viking Fest in Poulsbo, and part of much of the fun and revelry, they set up a carnival with rides, which I didn't partake in this year, but I used to. And one evening at the end of Viking Fest, I was sitting up on the hill here in Poulsbo and watched as they were shutting everything down. And this poem I wrote sitting there called Closing the Carnival. As stragglers depart, hammers bang apart flat rides first, booths for cheap shots and slinging rings over bottles. Last to go is the monster that swang and flang people screaming high into afternoon, now paused as ratchets slowly detach each metal basket. A wide purple circle lights smoke swirling amid shout and curse. A carny on his heels whistles as the piles grow. His favorite time is not construction or noisy crowds. No, his heart is the taking apart. I feel like I should be doing a Ginsberg thing here. You know,
Poetry intermezzo.
It's like like you said, a Jimi Hendrix intervention here. Oh, right, we shifted off it. This next poem is also about another form of finding joy. It's got an epigraph, which is from Rilke, and this is a quote from the final stanza of Rilke's 10th Duino elegy. It actually closes that elegy in that series of elegies, and in it Rilke says, "And we who always think of happiness rising would feel the emotion that almost baffles us when a happy thing falls." Do you all know that the Duino and has a wonderful time in his life? And this poem is called Happy Falling. Raindrops might simply fall from awning edge into the boy's mouth waiting below. He laughs as many bounce off nose or cheek, but now and then one succeeds, because each raindrop, like light passing a great mass, yearns, yes, turns a bit to reach his sizzling glee. That was in Walla Walla during a rain squall there on the street in Walla Walla. It was wonderful, actually. Another form of joy. This is a joy for me. I wrote this for a very close friend who passed away a couple of years ago, named Gracie. She grew up in North Dakota in a Norski family. Very hardworking family. She did a lot of baking and cooking for work crews there, and she went on from there to become a nurse. And from the result of her hard work and her nursing, she would often say to people, when a wrench somehow fell into the machinery and brought the gears to a halt, she rather than worry and stew about it, she'd kind of reach in and grab the wrench and pull it out, and she'd just kind of say, just get over it. And she really meant it. It was never kind of dismissive when she said something like that. And so people did. But this is She's a great gal, and this poem is called Dancing with Gracie. She erupts. I would stand for Gracie. Yes, I might lean against my pack as we talked, and she wrapped her sharp eyes around me. She simmers. I stay with her on rocky path or slant beach because her fiery smile opens the sky. Then that staccato Dakota drawl. She elates. I would dance with Gracie for all the world, give her a kiss and never get over it, for that is her gift. The next poem was inspired by a dream. I imagine you've all written dream poems. The poem is not actually about the dream literally. It just grew from there, was birthed there. That is a reincarnation dream. And if you ask me, Carl, do you believe in reincarnation? I probably would hem and haw and say sometimes. I'm not sure. But I had a very clear dream where the answer was really absolutely yes. And the dream was actually about my mother who passed away many years ago, being reincarnated as a young woman. And it's very interesting because in her reincarnation, in passing me by, she clearly sort of recognized me but ignored me. Kind of didn't know me and did at the same time. And likewise, she didn't look the same as she had in life, but I clearly knew who it was. And I pursued her and spoke with her, and she kind of said to me, like, leave me alone, but I'm doing fine and I'm doing well. And so from this poem, or from the dream, I actually eventually wrote this poem, which has, it may have some echo of another writer. Have some of you seen the movie Patterson? It's a wonderful movie about William Carlos Williams, and with poetry written by Ron Padgett. It's kind of an artistic, very poetic movie, but wonderful one to watch. But this poem's called She Stops to Quench Her Thirst. Sips from a shallow concavity in stone, so rare the bare shoulder, her red bike tattooed there. Unrushed touch of stone, cool water, untouched rush of life, just she and sunshine after fresh rain. The next poem is also about a loss. Guess we have some in common there, don't we, Diane? This one about a young dog, and so I'm sure you all have had this too with your own dogs or cats or other pets. This dog's name was Grover. It's also something of a poem honoring letters. There are different ways to, rather than honor in a way words in our poems, we at times actually just honor letters. And there are different ways to do that with anagrams and this and that, but which this poem is not. But besides being an elegy, it's an exploration, an honoring of letters. It's called Elegy Grover. There is bark in a D, dog. There is spark in a J, joy. There is an O in okay, but no N in not. There is in S sadness, R regret. There is L the light, the loss. There is G, our gratitude, G. Oh my goodness, I have another dog poem. Well, only... How did that happen? Who put this in here? And there's some inspiration here. It is about a dog, and I get in this one too. And there's also some inspiration in this poem from Rilke. It's a little more indirect. But if you have read much Rilke, you may well hear it here and then. And this is called To Make One Thing. If of this walk through the meadow, shepherding myself and a dying dog, of radiant heartfelt snow, and of the deep green of the firs, I am to make one thing. How? When my sore feet in the so demanding noise of tomorrow's doing resound, when, even alone, I find it so hard to mend all my strings, may I remember this pleasant moment of peace. As a flame placed inside a lantern grows steady in night's wind, may mine more brightly light this dark way. I'd like to read a poem. This is really for my wife Kay, who's I'm fortunate enough to have sitting here. Maybe some of you know Kay, I bet you do. From our many years on Bainbridge, we lived on for 30 years on Bainbridge, raised 2 sons, and then we lived in Port Townsend for several years, and now live here in Poulsbo, and nearer to Kay's mom. She did a hike on the Camino Trail in Spain, and this was a couple of years ago. And so this is just a little poem to commemorate, to honor that. And it's called Sangre de Camino, the blood of the Camino. Rolled sack on her shoulder, empty but soft for sleeping. In memory, she places a heart, rock at the foot of a shrine. Yesterday 6 geese in flight, today 5 on the pond, 1 short. Little different type of poem here. Our lives get pretty scattered, as you may have noticed, and but for good reasons. But we want to honor each other, and but things get in the way. And just like Anne couldn't make it here this evening, I hope she is recovering quickly. But that's part of our life, and this poem is really about that. It's for that. And it's kind of scattered the way I feel many times. And this is called Your Letter. The letter today I got, you forgot a stamp on too. Together, let's get, but not now, soon is too dangerous. My little one much, my tongue a sliver, I slip under. On my walk, I jumped when wind touched back. It was just his hand, my husband, I forgot was there. Let's try. I hope your family, well, is together. Your letter forgot its stamp. And I'll close with this poem, which is a tribute again to joy of nature, and joy of our seasons. And We're not quite at fall yet, but we're getting there, I think, fairly soon. And so this is actually the Joy of Fall poem. And it's called One Last Joy. Maybe leaves dream of skittering before the broom, whisked into air one last time. A leaf hangs richly, warmed by sun, cooled by night, lashed by storm, sip of sap, breath a lovely vapor, watching all the world move past until the day it falls, dizzying dip and flutter, joy like no other, air smile. Maybe leaves leave joy reluctantly, wishing one last lift from you, the sweeper.